1,000 Years of Rain is a title that, of course, can be interpreted to have something to do with us living in Bergen, which is one of the rainiest cities on Earth. We almost had 100 consecutive days of rain, not 1,000, but and also I guess it could be a reference to Norway having been under monotheistic reign, so to speak, for 1,000 years. But it's got something lyrically. I guess it's got something of a more personal or psychological angle. It's one of Grutle's lyrics. I really like it. They're pretty cryptical and pretty filled with metaphorical mythological reference. I really like that. And the song itself, it's one of the more catchy songs on the album, as I find it. It's got a pretty. It's got this interesting opening where we've tried to be a bit arty-farty with representing a bit of the title in the soundscapes, trying to do like rain in played as music, so to speak, which was an interesting experience because we don't really work that way. That's more of, I guess, a classical way of working to try and create the same pictures in the music as in the words and so on. But I think it was fairly successful, and then the song takes off, and it's got this driving, good energy to it. Again, a little bit of Motorhead in there too, in the main part of the song, I would say. And it really pays off having Kato being a drummer that was. He sort of developed his style in the 80s. Actually, he bought his first drum kit in 1979, which is a bit of a scary thought, as I was 2 years old then. But he learned to play the drums the hard and old way. You know, you hit them and you're responsible of maintaining the energy in the band, not thinking too much of, like, I feel a lot of the modern drummers are more about technique and the right kind of triggering equipment, and it's all about finding ways on how to avoid working too much and gaining lots of sound and tempo without having to sweat too much. But he's the opposite, you know. If it's sweaty, if it's hard to play, then it's probably good. So yeah, I would say that's one of the songs that I think people can get more easily into at the first listen, perhaps. I have a theory that this song is the grower on the album, because on the first glance on the album, it seems to fall a little bit between the chairs. You have Thurisaz Dreaming, which is a very bombastic and sort of jumps out with its old school references. And then you have the more melodic or poppy, in the sense that Enslaved can be poppy, but Building with Fire and 1,000 Years. And then you have like the epic, proggy things ending the album. And this one sort of falls in between all those categories. So I think that once you start listening through the album many times, this one is a grower that sort of has more of a life on its own. It's a little bit different in atmosphere. It opens up on a very optimistic note that's kind of unusual for Enslaved, but I would describe it as maybe a bit of the 70s, you know, happy people in slow motion in a big field of sunflowers. But there's something weird on the horizon. There's something, you know, there's a storm, some kind of psychedelic storm approaching, and that's what the song is doing. And the song theme, Nauthir, is the 10th rune in the old rune alphabet. It's a rune that deals with distress and emergency, acuteness, and it's got this sort of a link to, you know, how the Buddhist describes as when you hit rock bottom, you can only go up, so to speak. That there's no more choices to be made when everything's been taken away, so to speak, and that's when you gain a new dimension of freedom. There's a path where you can really be creative and create new things, because making choices is what sort of diverts us a lot of the time from actually creating and doing and developing, because we're spending so much time on just choosing all the time. So that's what that rune is symbolizing to me. Sort of the beauty of pure need or pure disaster or whatever you want to call it. So that's what I've been trying, I think, to represent musically also in the song. That contrast between, you know, both the beauty and ugliness of tragedy in a sense.